So as a longtime admirer of women who lead, I find Rachel Carson to be a daily inspiration. She understood long before most of us that the natural world was to be respected, not conquered by man-made threats such as chemically polluting lifestyles and weapons of mass destruction. A gifted writer, scientist, and social revolutionary, Rachel Carson wrote her most popular but very controversial book, Silent Spring, while being treated for breast cancer, which ultimately took her life in 1964. Rachel Carson would be very proud of how her book has inspired such great work here at Silent Spring. I am now committed to this organization as a result of two unrelated things. Initially, a rather long ago introduction to the good work of these dedicated people by a friend and sister alumna of Simmons College, and you might just guess who that person might be, Linda Pereski, and my personal experience with cancer, which has significantly intensified my support of this cause. On September 9th, 2014, I was diagnosed with breast cancer after an annual mammogram. Even though my tumor was early stage, it was also growing aggressively. So my care team recommended surgery, chemotherapy, extended radiation, and long-term medication intended to stave off recurrence. Due to the persistent prejudices against cancer patients and my role as a college president, I decided that being public about my cancer experience was important for its educational value. 1 year later, in September of 2015, with my hair and eyebrows growing back, I received the good news of a clear mammogram and no evidence of disease. Breast cancer patients wait 5 years to get the news that the disease is considered cured, and I have learned enough about this pernicious enemy to know that I will be working against breast cancer's return for the rest of my life. Literally days after my good news about breast cancer, I experienced a small but troubling symptom which sent me straight to my primary care physician, and she wasted no time in the persistent pursuit of what turned out to be a somewhat elusive endometrial cancer diagnosis. To be clear, this had no connection to my first cancer. Rather, it was a new primary cancer. My doctors advised me that once you have one cancer, you are more likely than a non-cancer patient to have an additional 1, 2, or more, and we do not yet know why. I had surgery just before the winter holidays, recuperated over the break, and returned to Simmons for second semester. Even though my surgical outcome was great, I again had an aggressive tumor, so I underwent special radiation to address that risk. No recommended chemotherapy was a celebratory moment for me, so my hair and eyebrows got a break this time. I decided that this second cancer journey would not be public and only began to discuss it after the recovery work was behind me. Frankly, I was emotionally exhausted by such a long period of talking about being a cancer patient. I know, however, for the rest of my life, I will live each day to the fullest, always remembering how fortunate I have been to be so well treated by such extraordinarily caring and talented people as my teams at Massachusetts General Hospital. And I will never forget that cancer is my perpetual enemy. So how do my experiences relate to the work of Silent Spring, and why am I a supporter? In a word, prevention. Prioritizing research toward the prevention of cancer is challenging for numerous reasons, including the vocal demand, which you have heard about several times tonight, for cures, and the major research funding by drugs, that is, cure developers. Now that I have firsthand cancer experience and understand the place of prevention in the order of research priorities, I am very motivated to do anything I can to protect any of you, any of my family and friends, and any of our progeny from having this dreaded experience. I have 2 anecdotes about prevention to share. The first has to do with Silent Spring's important quest to understand the impact of environmental carcinogens on the incidence of cancer. I have learned how very much we do not know about this directly from Simmons students. who have become powerful advocates for cancer prevention. In a course offered by Simmons professor Rich Gurney, entitled Toxic Consumables, Pay Me Now or Pay Me Later. Several students became deeply engaged in the relationship between materials we eagerly put on and in ourselves and the subsequent development of cancer. Knowing of my breast cancer diagnosis, these students, here in the room with us, Kristen Doucette and Alexandra Kemner, included me in key parts of their exploration, allowing me to gain some new insights, which I used to influence a major investment Simmons had to make to acquire playing fields for the college, which Linda mentioned. The issue came down to a decision on infill for the fields. That is, what do you put on the fields that will be the playing surface for our athletes? Crumb rubber, I'd never heard of it before until we had to make this decision. A mixture of chopped up, used car and truck tires versus organic infill, combining, yes, shredded coconut husks and cork. As we were about to make the purchase decision, and we're talking about $1 million decision here, we learned that the Obama administration was announcing a study of crumb rubber related to the deaths of multiple soccer goalies, all of whom played for years on crumb rubber, inhaling the potentially toxic materials as they dove to prevent goals. While our board considered increasing our investment to purchase the safer, more expensive organic infill, there was a moment of consideration of encapsulated crumb rubber. That is, crumb rubber that has a wrap around it. Only about half again as expensive as the organic alternative. I told our board that encapsulation was of no use when we did not understand the toxicity of the material to be encapsulated, a fact I had only learned from our students. The board vote taken was 100% in support of the organic infill materials. The second anecdote relates to Silent Spring's total commitment to cancer prevention, in spite of the difficulty of advancing this research priority. As I told you earlier, I have been diagnosed with 2 primary cancers in the span of 14 months. I barely completed the first cycle of treatment when I learned I had to pursue the second. If indeed the goal of prevention had been achieved, I would have been spared not only 1, but 2 and possibly more cancer diagnoses. Apply this little understood possibility of multiple cancers per cancer patient to the tragically certain population of our family and friends who will be diagnosed, and you will comprehend the incredible value of prevention. With this in mind, I understand now, as I never have before, the importance of prevention. It is impossible to overestimate the value of the work of Silent Spring. Once again, I thank you all for being here this evening, and I want to say that the work of Silent Spring is truly a gift to humanity. Please take this thought away with you tonight for your own sake and that of all your friends and family. And thank you very much again for this tremendous honor.